The time is precisely 6:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by Dulmin Samrasinghe and read by Chandima Veerakorn. Headlines. The President joins to commemorate those who died in the 9/11 attacks in the US. The Prime Minister directs to release essential food stocks piled up in the harbour. A complete plan is being made on health recommendations and limits when reopening the country. Attention paid on reopening schools under 4 phases. Vaccination of children expected to be completed before the end of next month. The assistance of United Arab Emirates is sought to purchase oil. In news overseas, gas crisis leaves Europe searching for solutions. In sports news, European Club Association claims FIFA calendar reforms are destructive. Local stories in detail. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has attended the special commemorative event organized in front of the Manhattan Memorial in the United States to mark the 20th anniversary of terrorist attacks in Washington and New York. The United Nations Office of Counterterrorism and the 9/11 Memorial Museum jointly organized the event to coincide with the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly. Other heads of state and government representatives who were in New York to attend the UN General Assembly were also present at the event to pay tribute to those who lost their lives in attacks. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa has instructed Sri Lanka Customs to immediately clear all essential food items currently in the port. The Prime Minister has issued this directive during the Cost of Living Committee meeting held today. He has issued the directive to the Imports and Exports Controller General and the Director General of Sri Lanka Customs. It has been decided during the meeting to ensure that the essential food items cleared from the port are distributed to the general public through the Satasa outlets and through the importers of essential goods. The COVID Prevention Special Committee has decided to prepare a plan on health recommendations and limits when reopening the country after lifting quarantine curfew. The plan will be made under 3 categories. The recommendations will be presented under the guidance of Ministry of Labour, health experts and the Health Ministry on the maintenance of public transport services to operate public sector machinery and services of the private sector. The decisions have been taken at the COVID Prevention Special Committee meeting, which took place through video technology headed by Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa. The minister said that full support of the public health inspectors, regional political authorities, rural development committees and media should be obtained to prepare the plan. He said that all sectors should work together to take forward the economic process continuously under the new normal situation. It has been possible to maintain an economic growth of 12.3% during the second quarter of this year. He pointed out that the growth rate decreased to 1% in the third quarter due to the closure of the country. The finance minister emphasized the need to work to achieve a target of 3% in the fourth quarter. He expressed belief by that it will be possible to maintain the country's annual economic growth at 5%. The Ministry of Education says that schools will be reopened under 4 phases. Secretary to the Ministry, Professor Kapila Perera, said that they hope to open 3,884 schools from grade 1 to 5 in the first phase. He said that plans have been made to open schools after the ending of COVID, since children under the age of 12 years are not needed to be given a COVID vaccine. As soon as the decision of the technical committee is received, vaccination of students between the ages of 12 and 15 and in the ages of 16 and 19 will be done with the approval of pediatric specialists. Next week, officials of provinces, districts and regions connected to education and health sectors will be asked about the preparations to reopen schools. Meanwhile, cleaning of all schools in the country is scheduled to commence within the next 2 weeks. Health Minister Kehelia Rambukwella says that vaccination of children can be completed by the end of next month. Children with complications between the age of 12 and 19 years are being vaccinated first. The vaccination program of children commenced officially today at the Lady Ridgeway Hospital in Colombo under the patronage of Mrs. Shiranti Rajapaksa. Vaccination programs for children commenced at Anuradhapura and Kurunagala hospitals to coincide with the program. 35,000 children with complications are scheduled to be given the Pfizer vaccine. Director General of Health Services Dr. Asela Gunawardena said there were no moves to create an artificial decline in COVID cases in order to get Sri Lanka removed from the red list. Addressing a news briefing, he vehemently dismissed reports which said Sri Lanka reduced the number of PCR tests to create an artificial drop in cases so that it could be removed from the red list. He said a country is not removed from the red list only considering the number of infections. There are other yardsticks based on which a country is removed from the red list. Dr. Gunawardena pointed out that transmission has slightly slowed in the community, resulting in fewer admissions to hospitals, which is why there is a decline in COVID cases. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Continuing with the local stories, State Minister Sister Jayakodi says that post-COVID treatment centres are being set up island-wide to treat complications after recovering from the virus. Plans have been made to provide packets of immunity items to the homes of COVID patients to enhance their immunity. During a media briefing, he said today that the Ayurveda hospital system has been prepared in this regard. Foreign Minister G.L. Peiris has requested United Arab Emirates to support to purchase oil. The Foreign Minister held discussions with the Minister of Industries and Higher Technology of UAE, Dr. Sultan Al-Jabbar, on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly sessions. The Foreign Minister, drawing attention to the need of oil in the country, requested the UAE for a concessionary plan. The two ministers agreed to prepare a strategic framework and to review it soon. To conclude the local news, the headlines again. The President joins to commemorate those who died in the 9/11 attacks in the US. The Prime Minister directs to release essential food stocks piled up in the harbour. A complete plan is being made on health recommendations and limits when reopening the country. Attention paid on reopening schools under 4 phases. Vaccination of children expected to be completed before the end of next month. The assistance of United Arab Emirates is sought to purchase oil. That ends the local news.
A mother knows the pain of each member of the family. Siddhalepa, the trusted relief for aches and pains.
An effective therapy for relief from cold, sneezing, flu, headaches, swelling due to toothaches, rheumatic, discomforts, and muscular aches and pains. Siddhalepa, the Veda Mahatmya in every home.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Veda Mahatmya.
And on the main news story, the Ministry of Health says that another 950 coronavirus patients have recovered and been discharged from hospitals and treatment centres within the past 24 hours. This brings the tally of COVID-19 recoveries in the country to 452,692. Sri Lanka has so far registered 510,040 COVID patients, while the number of infected patients currently being treated is 44,900. The death toll due to the virus has risen to 12,448. That ends the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Veda Mahatmya. Brush your teeth twice a day for healthy teeth and gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, your trusted brands in oral care for many years.
Supiriviki Ayurvedic toothpaste for adults. Kakulu Ayurvedic toothpaste for kids. 9 Ayurvedic ingredients of Supiriviki will protect your teeth and strengthen your gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, products from Siddhalepa.
And now in Watchlight.
A centre to provide assistance to persons with special needs in Sri Lanka to enable them to fulfil their different requirements and to coordinate with external society was opened at the Government Information Department by Media Minister Dallas Alaperuma yesterday. The minister launched the app specially prepared on behalf of communication needs of the disabled community. That ends Watchlight.
World News.
The headlines of the world news. Gas crisis leaves Europe searching for solutions. The influential sister of North Korean leader says North Korea is open to ending war. Derek Chauvin appeals against conviction for George Floyd murder. A surge in gas prices has hit consumers and energy firms in the UK, with knock-on effects for the food industry and supplies of carbon dioxide. Elsewhere in Europe, consumers are also facing a steep rise in energy bills and governments are scrambling to help. The crisis has highlighted the difficulty for Europeans to funding the move to renewable energy. The influential sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un says they are willing to resume talks with the South if it ends its hostile policies. Kim Yo-jong was responding to a renewed call from the South to officially declare an end to the Korean War. The conflict, which split the peninsula in two, ended in 1953 with an armistice and not a peace treaty. The two countries have technically been at war ever since and locked in a sometimes tense relationship. The former Minneapolis police officer convicted of the murder of African-American man George Floyd in 2020 says he will appeal against his conviction. Derek Chauvin, who is white, says there were issues with the jury at the trial and that it should not have taken place in the U.S. state of Minneapolis. Chauvin was sentenced to over 22 years in jail after kneeling on Mr. Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes. His death sparked mass protest against racism and police brutality in the U.S. To end the world news, the headlines again. Gas crisis leaves Europe searching for solutions. The influential sister of North Korean leader says North Korea is open to ending war. Derek Chauvin appeals against conviction for George Floyd murder. That ends the world news. Moving on to the development news. Rural Roads and Other Infrastructure State Ministry Secretary Professor Ranjit Dissanayake planted a sapling at Adalat, Chennai, marking the program to plant 200,000 saplings on either side of highways under the supervision of road development recently. Over 1,000 saplings will be planted in the region. That ends development news.
Sports news.
And on sports news, it's football, Formula One and cricket news. In football, European Club Association says FIFA's calendar revamp would lead to a direct and destructive impact on the club game. World football's governing body has proposed a men's World Cup every 2 years as part of an overhauled international match calendar. The European Club Association said the planned changes were in direct and unilateral breach of certain legal obligations. In Formula One news, Valtteri Bottas led Lewis Hamilton in a Mercedes 1-2 in first practice at the Russian Grand Prix. He was 0.211 seconds ahead of Hamilton, with Red Bull's Max Verstappen third, just 0.016 seconds behind his title rival, who the Dutchman leads by 5 points. Ferrari's Charles Leclerc, who starts at the back of the grid after a penalty for using too many engines, was fourth. In cricket news, Australia batter Usman Khawaja has criticised England and New Zealand for pulling out of their tours to Pakistan. The Pakistan-born player added that he believes such decisions would not have been taken if the tours were to India. New Zealand's men pulled out because of a security alert, while England withdrew their men's and women's teams on the grounds of player welfare. That ends sports news.
A safe, easy and versatile app for all your banking needs. NSB Pay for monetary transactions, bill payments, reloads, credit card payments and Lanka QR transactions. A range of facilities with multiple account registrations. Access to your bank needs wherever you are. Download the NSB Pay app from the Play Store or the App Store for free now. For more information, call your nearest NSB branch or 0112 379 379. Conditions apply.
Business news. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
The Hambantota International Port Group signed a Memorandum of Understanding with Xiamen Qinglong United Automotive Industry Company Limited in Fujian, China last week. This is a direct result of the investment promotion in Fujian led by the Sri Lankan ambassador in China, Dr. Palitha Kona, and HIPG's investment promotion team headed by Justin Zhang, General Manager and Port Investment Services. That ends Business News.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
A safe, easy and versatile app for all your banking needs. NSB Pay for monetary transactions, bill payments, reloads, credit card payments and Lanka QR transactions. A range of facilities with multiple account registrations. Access to your bank needs wherever you are.
Economic news. Courtesy of
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act No. 42 of 2011.
On economic news, Sri Lanka's construction activities delivered their fastest growth in 5 years during the quarter ended June 2021. Real estate activities continued to add strength into its growth, reflecting that the two interconnected sectors remain largely resilient since the initial setback suffered during the virus outbreak last year. Sri Lanka's construction and real estate activities accounted for 12.1% of the total economic output of Sri Lanka by the end of June 2021. That ends economic news.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act No. 42 of 2011.
Weather report.
And finally on the weather report, the Met Department says showery condition over the southwestern part of the island is likely to enhance during the next few days. Showers or thunder showers will occur at times in the western, Sabragamur and central provinces and in Galle and Matra districts. Fairly heavy showers above 50 mm can be expected at some places in these areas. Showers or thunder showers will occur at several places in the northern, eastern and Uva provinces in the evening or at night. That ends the weather report. And now to conclude this bulletin of news, the headlines again. The President joins to commemorate those who died in the 9/11 attacks in the US. The Prime Minister directs to release essential food stocks piled up in the harbour. A complete plan is being made on health recommendations and limits when reopening the country. Attention paid on reopening schools under 4 phases. Vaccination of children expected to be completed before the end of next month. The assistance of United Arab Emirates is sought to purchase oil. In news overseas, gas crisis leaves Europe searching for solutions. In sports news, European Club Association claims FIFA calendar reforms are destructive. With that, we conclude this bulletin of news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.